The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Rudy's revelation.
This is a conspiracy.
Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode. It is Thursday, July 17th, 2025. Welcome to the podcast. All right, so the daughter of ex-FBI Director James Comey, Maurene Comey, who is also a federal prosecutor in New York, has been fired. And this is in the wake, she was handling that Jeffrey Epstein case, so it's in the wake of that. We're going to talk about possible Epstein files inserted, fake files, and that might have something to do with Maurene Comey's firing. And also we're going to talk more about the Biden cover-up. All this and more, over 30 headlines to get through in the next hour. So let's read the news. We're going to start with the word of the day. Might be bringing this back. Merriam-Webster, frame up, an act or series of action in which someone is framed. Well, if you went to Merriam-Webster and you look up what frame is, you couldn't find the definition that we're looking for. I had to go all the way to Britannica, go all the way down to the bottom, and it's the third definition for the second meaning: to make an innocent person appear to be guilty of a crime. Why are we talking about that? My belief, and it seems to be corroborated by all the actions that are happening, that probably before Trump even took the oath of office, there was a bunch of scrambling in the intelligence agency, the domestic intelligence agencies and what have you, concerning all the activities and crimes of the deep state. Not just Epstein, but a lot of other things as well. Now, what do you think they did? You think there was a mass shredding of documents? Of course there was. Do you think there was the misplacement, the obfuscation of information? Of course there was. The question here now is, was there false counterintelligence, false information inserted in the trove of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein, or maybe other things as well? But I think this was done later. I think this was done more recently. I think when Trump started down this road, the DOJ started down this road, Pam Bondi started down this road, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino started down this road in January. I think they had an honest, I think they were being honest, and they wanted to have an honest disclosure of evidence. But as Perry and I discussed last night in episode 121 of Tuesdays with Perry, and as I stated previously, I like Kash Patel, I like Dan Bongino, but as far as the intelligence world is concerned, they're in over their head. They wouldn't think that people still within the agencies could sabotage the very evidence they're looking for. Of course they could. It's called counterintelligence. So intelligence is actually the gathering of information. Counterintelligence is the thwarting of that gathering. And you could do that in several different ways. So propaganda is counterintelligence. You're putting out information that you know is false. It's called disinformation. That's counterintelligence. And what's been going on with Russia right now, if you did not know, that the West is circulating within their own ranks, within their own intelligence ranks, circulating information that the West has no, well, let's put it this way. The West is not planning on a real peace agreement, that the West and the United States and Donald Trump is just using peace talks as a tactic to rearm Ukraine. And that's why Putin isn't coming to the table, because he thinks he's got this clandestine intelligence, which is actually counterintelligence disinformation. So it appears to me that that's exactly what this is concerning Trump. So all the people getting on their high horse about fucking Epstein, and at a certain point it's getting tiring because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. You've heard that phrase before. You don't know. You don't know what's in the Epstein files. Is there a client list? Sure. I mean, let's not fool ourselves. What we have to understand here is that Jeffrey Epstein was not procuring young masseuses, young girls, to perform sexual act. They're not trafficking in young teenagers, trafficking in young teenagers for sex. So he wasn't doing that just for himself. He would try out the merchandise, obviously, but he was using those young girls to lure and to give favors to, or maybe even money exchange. It's hard to know right now. To other people, high prominent people, what have you. Completely understandable. Did he make a list? No. Apparently, Ghislaine Maxwell has a list, her little black book, so to speak. And the judge sealed that. It's under court seal, so that legally that information can't be released. And I think that has something to do with Maurene Comey being fired, because Maurene Comey is a deep stater, obviously, who is protecting the inner workings of the deep state. Obviously, Epstein is involved in this, so we know. Let's go to the story. Maurene Comey, daughter of ex-FBI Director James Comey, fired from top U.S. Attorney's office job after working Diddy Epstein cases. Then we have the Justice Department. This is from Associated Press. The Justice Department fires Maurene Comey, prosecutor on Epstein case and daughter of ex-FBI director. Maurene Comey was a veteran lawyer in the South District of New York, long considered the most elite of the Justice Department's prosecution offices. Her cases included the sex trafficking prosecution of Epstein, who killed himself behind bars in 2019 as he was awaiting trial, and the recent case against Combs, which ended earlier this month with mixed results. First off, the elite Justice Department, that is concerning anyway. But there's no way. See, the great thing about the prosecution of the offenses against law is that it's a public record. So, and everybody knows this, and judges know this, and what have you. So we know that if Jeffrey Epstein was prosecuted, who knows what's going to come out in the case? Maybe he's going to release information to save his hide. Nobody knows. There was a bet that Ghislaine Maxwell, she actually was in hiding before her arrest, but I'm not going to get into that. But that she was going to turn state's evidence, but she didn't. So now she's getting a reprieve, it looks like. And I don't know if Maurene Comey was involved in that case, but she shouldn't be. And if she was going to be, that's a good reason for her to be fired. The latest move by the Justice Department to fire lawyers without explanation. I don't know, do you need one? Which has raised alarm over a disregard of civil service protections designed to prevent terminations for political reasons. The Justice Department has also fired a number of prosecutors who worked on cases that provoked President Trump's ire, including some who handled the U.S. Capitol riot cases, and lawyers and support staff who worked on Special Counsel Jack Smith's prosecution. All right, let's look. Is it political? Yes, in a sense. You have to understand the liberal bureaucrat establishment infiltration of all aspects of society. And then you have to layer on top of that Chinese communist infiltration throughout the country and how those two infiltrations work together. First of all, they're protecting the system, the establishment, the new world order that's going to become the old world order, because there'll be a new world order. But in any case, all these Democrats, and this is the thing about conspiracy, the people don't have to exchange information. They just have to be working towards the same end. And they are. The end being, we can't have populist, democratically elected populists in office that are trying to undo the system that was put into place by the elite. So we're going to look at I don't want to look at the Epstein case, but we have to look at the Epstein case because it's important and indicative of what's happening as far as turning the tables toward Trump's ouster. You don't think it'll happen? They're looking at every crack and they're shoving a chisel in there or a pry bar, and they're opening the crack as much as they can. So Reuters, Trump faces backlash as 69% believe Epstein details concealed. Now, there's an important part here that you have to understand is that the poll here, margin of error, 3 or 6 points or whatever, at this point, it doesn't matter. It's the questions they're asking. When you talk about the government, you're not talking about the administration. So let's look at this poll. Is the government hiding information on Epstein's death? All adults, 60% say yes. Republicans, 55% say yes. Democrats now say 71%. Other 56%. The government is hiding Epstein's alleged client list. 69%, all adults. Republicans, 62%. Democrats, 82%. Others, 64%. So what's important about this here? This information is crucial to understand what's going on, not just here, but also in the electoral base, in the electorate. So the Democrats that are all-time low, they're going to use this as leverage, right? But we're talking about generally the American people. And it's not just Trump's base that's concerned with Jeffrey Epstein. It's everybody. You talk to anybody on the street that thought that Jeffrey Epstein, if they knew the case at all, whether they thought he killed himself, and people would just laugh or say, I don't know, or no, or what have you. This is the strange thing, is that the majority of people, now the majority of Democrats, because Democrat politicians and news media, now they're prying into it. Like I said, last Friday, Jessica Tarloff, who's the token liberal on the Five, started talking like a conspiracy theorist, not just about Epstein, mostly about Epstein, but about Butler as well. But she's talking about Epstein. She must have got the memo, because why is it all of a sudden okay to start prying into the deep state conspiracy theories? Because they were told it was okay. I don't think it's okay. I mean, I believe there's a conspiracy theory, but you shouldn't just go after it because everybody in your group says it's okay. It's obviously that the Democrats know. James Comey knows. James Comey told the upper echelon what's going on there. Probably told Maurene what's going on there. That counterintelligence, fake, I won't say fake right now because it's not fair. I think fake. Incriminating evidence of Donald Trump was inserted into the document trove, either probably the New York office, because Maurene Comey is connected to that, so that's why she was fired. Now, when Kash Patel revealed that there was a closet with all this information that James Comey was the only one that had the key to, or some bullshit like that, we don't know if that was in the Hoover building or if that was in the New York office. In any case, what it appears is in the New York office, evidence was inserted that implicates Trump. Now, the people on the left know about it, and that's why they're pushing for the release. And the idea here is, did Donald Trump actually do anything illegal with, in the company of Jeffrey Epstein? I don't know. I know what I know, and I know what I don't know. So I don't know. But what I surmise at this point is that there is information in there implicating Donald Trump now. Is it accurate? I mean, is it, and this is going to get me to the next article here, is it credible? ABC News is reporting Trump says Bondi should release whatever she thinks is credible. Let them have it, he said about MAGA supporters' demands for the DOJ files. Now, my problem here is this quote. I didn't see the video of him saying that. It's repeated time and time again. So maybe he said it. I didn't see that. And I'm going to get into that in just a second. Whatever she thinks is credible. But the word here is probably what the word of the day should have been, is credible. And in terms of credibility of the different things, now this is what you need to focus on. Credibility. Because it's obvious this is the Telegraph. The credibility of different things that we've seen. So they've seen it. And I would say that, these files were made up by Comey. So he says it right there, folks. So it's the discernment of information, reading in between the lines, and deciding exactly what means what. Because sometimes people, even Obama would do this. He would have butt sentences together that would actually tell you, it's like neuro-linguistic programming. The words were put in a different order to get you to believe something completely mundane. But there's information in there that passes on a message to people that have discernment. Here's the discernment. Credibility of different things we've seen. these files were made up by Comey. Stop right there. He's the one, and we know that he's the one, or his delegates that are still in the FBI are the ones that inserted it into the file. They were made up by Obama. I don't think they were made up by Obama. I think Obama directed it, just like Obama directed Crossfire Hurricane. Because Obama is still the head of the Democratic Party for all intents and purposes. Although if you saw him on Michelle's podcast, he's fucking losing it. I think he smoked too much crack. They were made up by Biden. I don't know if Biden had the mental capacity to make up anything. But I think he's talking about their administrations. And we went through the years of the Russia hoax, Crossfire Hurricane. So, this is what I'm talking about here. We've gone through it for years, but she's handled it very well. And it's going to be up to her. Whatever she thinks is credible, she should release. So what I went to in the beginning is that I didn't hear him say that. I heard him said whatever she thinks is credible, she should release. But she never said whatever she thinks is credible, she should release. I never heard that. I did hear this quote. Anything that's credible, I would say, let them have it. Now, I remember that quote. So the key here is credibility. Obviously, there's stuff in the file that Trump and Bondi and others don't believe is credible. So it's, I want to say made up, I believe, deep fake video showing Trump in a compromising position. Trump said, that's not me. I was never there. I never did that, whatever. And particularly I know this to be the case. Why? Is because the corroboration is in the fact that the Democrats now are all on board and trying to uncover this file now. You know? Which leads us to our next headline from PJ Media. Democrats don't actually want the Epstein files released. They show little interest in transparency when their own party held the White House. That disconnect was on full display during a CNN interview Wednesday when Pramila Jayapal, she sucks, struggled to explain why she didn't demand the release of the Epstein-related files during Joe Biden's presidency. And that leads us to believe or to figure out the timing. So the timing probably is technology related. I don't believe they had the technology to create a believable deep fake. You can see the AI videos now. They're funny, but you can tell they're not real. So they had to wait. I don't believe they had the technology back in the Biden administration, but maybe now, to create this. So I believe because of this, because they could have easily trotted this out during the election. So I don't think these files existed before the election. I think they thought they were going to win. They lost. They had plenty of time to clean things up and insert things, and I think that's exactly what they did. So sometime before the New York FBI office, and that's maybe why they were stonewalling, because they needed to get this file in there. I think that's the case. So stop talking about releasing the Epstein files because Trump is on there. Whether that's credible or not, Trump is obviously arguing that it's not credible, is another thing entirely. All right, let's go to the next headline here from the Federalist. New GOP-backed amnesty bill is a gift to Dems and middle finger to voters. Florida Republican Maria Elvira Salazar, she's a Republican, it reintroduced the Dignity Act on Tuesday, which, according to the press release from her office, allows certain long-term undocumented immigrants to earn legal status without amnesty or a path to citizenship, so that the illegal aliens who broke the law can have the opportunity. The bill would create a 7-year earned legal status program, allowing aliens to live and work legally with renewable status based on a good conduct and restitution. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know about that at all. See, I'm not for amnesty per se. Maybe down the road, but we're 6 months into a closed border, so now is not the time to bring it up. Like I said, I go, if you're going to bring up amnesty, which I think is going to be part of an new immigration law, the problem is putting amnesty this soon, it only acts as an incentive for people to go along. Moving on with the article, all conservatives should remember that this is not the first time Republicans have been seduced by the false promises of a compassionate amnesty. Ronald Reagan's 1986 Immigration Reform Control Act was sold as a one-time fix, amnesty for nearly 3 million illegal aliens in exchange for real, long-lasting border security. The amnesty happened, the border security evidently did not, which is true. That's why that stupid bill that Langford put up during the Biden administration was such a bait and switch bunch of bullshit. You have to use border security first, clean out the unwanted people so they don't game the system, and then many years down the road, after having a closed border, then maybe you could look at people that have been here for a while, working and paying their taxes or doing whatever, being a good resident, because they're not citizens. Maybe then, maybe, but not now. The Dignity Act is no more than a surrender to the destructive delusion that rewarding illegality will somehow stop it. And that's exactly what I believe, is it incentivizes people to come here if you're going to go, well, and you're here and you hide and act, you're below the board, that somehow if you wait long enough, you'll be given amnesty. If you avoid arrest and deportation for long enough, you'll get amnesty. Also in the headlines today, if you did not see, Biden insiders keep proving they're hiding something. Anthony Bernal, and he was Jill Biden's infamous work husband. She's actually Jill Biden's chief of staff. And is that a government position? I guess. Why the first lady needs a chief of staff. In any case, Anthony Bernal just became the latest Biden insider to clam up under oath. On Wednesday, Bernal evoked the Fifth Amendment when dragged before Congress to answer questions about Joe Biden's obvious cognitive decline, making him the second close Biden aide lawyer to lawyer up and refuse to talk. Moving on. Before the recent depositions of Anthony Bernal and Dr. Kevin O'Connor, who also kept pleading the Fifth Amendment, Neera Tanden and Ashley Williams cooperated fully. I wouldn't say cooperated fully, sitting for transcribed interviews without invoking their right against self-incrimination. They didn't cooperate fully. Ashley Williams kept saying she doesn't remember. So she didn't plead the Fifth. She just pleaded ignorance or amnesia, neither of which is a legal defense. So saying, I don't remember, that's not cooperating fully. In any case, no information has been revealed saying that they knew of Joe Biden's cognitive decline and did anything about it. Of course not. First of all, the cognitive decline of a president is national security, first of all. So we should know that. Having a problem with it. So bear with me a second. So the reality is here that they are covering up, as we knew they would, because now Joe Biden's out of office, so it's no longer national security. Okay, bear with me here. So the reality is, and Perry and I discussed this last night, the reality is that Joe Biden was not the president of the United States. They used an administrative team to govern, which is completely illegal. But I understand is he's president. You have to protect him in terms of national security. You can't let our adversaries know that he is, mentally not there. But he's out of office now. So all you have to do is claim national security. But they don't want to talk because they don't want to incriminate themselves because it could very well be been illegal. What's happening? Yeah, and I've been late the past couple days. Because I'm having these technical issues. It's not just my computer, like today with my phone, obviously being surveilled. Because out of nowhere, my camera popped up and started recording. All right, anyway, back to the headline. Zero Hedge, RFK Jr. fires top aides, appoints new acting chief of staff. So who did he get rid of? He got rid of Heather Mellenson, who was the HHS chief of staff, and Hannah Anderson, who'd been the department's deputy of staff policy, according to Robert Malone, a close ally of Kennedy. Huh. What did I lose here? In any case, he reported a new chief of staff. I thought I had the name here, and I do not have the name. I'm sorry. All right, other good news coming up. Associated Press, Senate passes $9 billion in spending cuts to public broadcasting foreign aid requested by Trump. This is a lie. All those funds were already cut through Doge, and this is considered a rescission, which makes it law. So you can get things done through executive order, but if you want them to be permanent, you have to pass them in Congress, because if a new administration comes in, then they could just turn it back. It's harder to pass legislation, obviously, than to issue an executive order. So that's the point. So the AP is being disingenuous here. More news. Fox Business, Trump asks House Republicans if he should fire Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Trump has repeatedly threatened Powell, who he appointed in 2017. Lawmakers have agreed with President Trump that Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell should be fired, but the president indicated he is not moving to oust Powell right now. Trump asked a group of House Republicans during a meeting if he should remove Powell from his position. Talked about the concept of firing him. I said, what do you think? Almost every one of them said I should. He told reporters in the Oval Office. but I'm more conservative than they are about his positions, which makes sense. I have to go check my. Yeah, I don't know. No, I get a black screen. So if you're watching out there live, I hope you can see me. So moving on with the headlines. We have the National Review. The Republican Senate establishment isn't dead just yet. And what they're talking about here is there's still John Cornyn of Texas and others who are establishment Republicans. But a lot have been fired. Mitch McConnell is still there. Tom Tillis is still there, but they're leaving. And it might seem, according to the National Review, that the old guard is falling away. Those in Congress who resisted Trump have been gradually replaced over the decade with fresher, more Trump-friendly faces. To name a handful of the establishment senators we've lost along the way: Bob Corker, Jeff Flake, oh my God, Pat Toomey, Rob Portman, Ben Sasse, Mitt Romney, Richard Burr. Oh, who cares about all those guys? Fuck them. They're part of the establishment. It's all corrupt. Everybody knows that. The system is corrupt. Are there new people who are corrupt? Sure. But especially the neocons who didn't have a problem with spending us into $27 or $37 trillion in debt are gone, should be gone. Oh, this is Jill Biden's former chief of staff pleads the Fifth Amendment investigation over Biden's health cover-up. Moving on to the post-millennial. Gender-fluid Michigan teen charged with attempted arson of a Republican lawmaker's office. Zan Arkan was arraigned Monday afternoon after allegedly attempting to burn down a building housing the Dickinson County Republican Committee's office. The left is violent. The left is violent because they act on emotion. They don't have an intellectual retort. Not only that, but their ideology forbids them from having an intellectual retort. Their thing is, if you're faced with intellectual accusations, you're not to say anything. Don't engage in an argument or a dispute because you can't win because they don't have sound ideological arguments. In any case, this 19-year-old Michigan man admitted to building a Molotov cocktail. The Iron Mountain Police Department said in a statement that Arkan admitted to making the explosive device to send a message against corruption. Well, who exactly is corrupt? He didn't say. Doesn't have an argument. Doesn't have charges. And didn't support whoever this politician support their opposition. And if you have evidence of corruption, give it to the opposition and so they can have a debate about it. More news from the post-millennial. Antifa suspect Jeremy Lawson arrested over brutal assault of journalists at Seattle No Kings. Jeremy Calvin, 33 of Monroe, Washington, who uses the alias Jack Rack, has been booked into the King County Jail for felony assault. Lawson was accused of physically assaulting Higbee while the journalist was reporting on a riot against Trump and U.S. immigration enforcement in downtown Seattle. Incident occurred on June 14th, following the nationwide No Kings protest. The suspect wanted for politically motivated felony assault that occurred during an anti-ICE protest. So this is the journalist, Higbee, that I received threatening text messages just yesterday from whom I believed to be Lawson. Today, he was arrested. I couldn't be happier. Over the past few months, Lawson and his goons have terrorized me and my family, both mentally and physically, with threats and harassment. According to footage, Lawson, an Antifa militant, was among a group of rioters who confronted Higbee as he was sitting down near the federal building in Seattle. Lawson, who had been wearing all black and concealing his identity behind a face covering, could be observed throwing multiple punches, striking Higbee in the head and leaving dents on the journalist's helmet due to the severity of the blows. Higbee reported that he sustained a concussion that left him with blurred vision. No, the left isn't violent. It's the right. It's the right that are violent, right? Wrong. Speaking of the state of mind of these folks, this is the Washington Post. Why the Gen Z stare has every generation talking. The emotionless expressions teens and young adults sometimes make if someone is inconveniencing them by just saying hi, make small talk, or trying to take their food order, finally has a name, the Gen Z stare. It's unclear how it got its name, but many say they've long been on the receiving end of the face and trying to understand why much of Gen Z looks so dead in the eyes, creating dead air in what's supposed to be a dialogue. My problem with this is simply that they don't have an argument. They don't have a retort. Their intellectual understanding and thought process is like molasses. So they don't have a retort. So their retort is just to stare at you. Now, I've had this time and time again by people on the left, not just Gen Zers, but people on the left. You give them factual information with the receipts, with corroboration, and they look at you like you have two heads. So what makes a stare a Gen Z stare? It's a blank look where a response is reasonably warranted. Jared Benson, a 33-year-old Orlando content creator whose videos poke fun at generational idiosyncrasies, said it was a perfect storm of Gen Z constantly being on social media and physical isolation from the pandemic led them to be socially awkward generation. Benson said that once a waiter not said a word while his table ordered food, instead of just looking at each person and then walking away. Not a thank you, not anything. If you've ever been in people in retail, they constantly do this, Gen Zers. It's like they're watching a video. Like there's a plane of glass between the two. Small talk is painful indeed. We know this, but we do it because it's socially acceptable and almost socially required. You have to be able to engage people intellectually, in person. So the problem is they're divorced from reality because they've seen, and I tell my wife this all the time when she's looking at her phone, I go, it's not real. She goes, it's real. And I go, it's not real. You're looking at a picture or a video. You're not looking at the real thing. Gen Zers can't tell the difference. When they watch, and that's why they don't help people. When there's something happening, they either film it or they watch it like it's a video. They don't jump into action, go to help that person, whatever. It's part of the loss of, you're being dumbed down even to a greater extent now through the food and through the media on purpose, because that way artificial intelligence will more easily be able to take advantage of you. And we already see that happening. Survey shows Americans aren't buying into climate hype, but the media don't seem to notice. Public broadly supports an all of the above energy policy, doesn't support the rapid elimination of fossil fuels, and supports increased domestic production of fossil fuels. A survey also found that the public prioritizes energy affordability and reliability, and most Americans are unwilling to sacrifice much financially to address climate change. Not to mention that there is not significant amount of evidence that says You specifically driving a gas car, or you putting carbon dioxide into the atmosphere affects climate change. Oh. My live feed finally came back. Jumping around. All right, more headlines. I mean, I never believed climate. I believe there is climate change. I believe pollution has adverse effects on the environment. However, the whole thing about carbon dioxide is a little iffy. One American News, Trump signs bill cracking down on fentanyl, strengthen drug penalties. Good. But Trump also says Coca-Cola agreed to use real cane sugar in their soda. I'm all for that. But cane sugar, all sugar is bad for you. It's actually toxic. Now, if you eat sugar, if you eat cane sugar, it's probably a little bit better for you as long as it's not GMO than corn syrup, which predominantly is GMO. And the reality is you shouldn't have a lot of sugar, period, especially as an adult. But I don't think anybody should have a lot of sugar. If you like sweet things, you should try fruit or fruit juice or something that's more natural, maple syrup. But anything with added sugar, cane, or otherwise is not really good for you. So you're drinking a lot of Coca-Cola, whether it's cane sugar or corn syrup, doesn't make a difference. Sugar is bad. If you have a sweet thing now and again, it doesn't matter. If you eat a yogurt with a little sugar in it, you're okay. It's minimizing the amount that you're ingesting every day. You shouldn't have any. So keep that in mind. You shouldn't have any. So if you have a little bit, you'll probably be okay. I know people are like, don't be such a food Nazi. I'm like, you can do whatever you want, but sugar makes you fat. And your body breaks down other shit into sugar anyway. Carbs, for instance. Kristi Noem teases liquid size restriction changes for TSA. The day I walked through the door, I started asking questions about everything TSA does. I will tell you, the liquids rule, I am questioning. So that may be the next big announcement, what size your liquids need to be. We're looking at that. I think that's great. The explosive things obviously is an issue. I think in reality, what we need to do is tone down the belligerent rhetoric between groups and nations and things like that. That way you don't have terrorists. But, you have to be sure that someone is not going to bring explosive or flammable liquid onto a plane. I don't have a problem with that rule. I had more of a problem with taking off my shoes. I had more of a problem with body scanning. But, you have to balance that with security. I don't want to blow up in a plane. Associated Press. Feds charge 3 current or former Louisiana police chiefs in an alleged visa fraud scheme. Where's the text from this? Do I have the text? So I'll just tell you what it is. The text with this article said that the scheme was that the Louisiana police, these police chiefs were concocting arrest reports on illegal immigrants to allow them to get visas. It's kind of convoluted, isn't it? So they would say these people were victims of robberies, and apparently that would help them in their visa application. It's a fraud scheme. But the DOJ, Pam Bondi's office is on it, which is good. Louisiana is one of the more corrupt states. I know I like Louisiana. I love New Orleans. But the New Orleans Police Department is one of the most corrupt. And I know people don't want to hear me say that, but it's true. National Review, new data shows abortion rate increases overseas. We can get into this briefly. It's just the statistics. Like I said, when Trump got rid of Roe versus Wade is what they wanted. They wanted less physical abortion operations, medical abortions, and more chemical abortions, and that's exactly what they got. Also from the post-millennial, Chinese couple arrested in California after authorities find their 21 children born through rent-a-womb surrogacy scheme. Babies are being neglected, then transported to China. This is a very interesting story. He said that it's a national security threat. It's not clear if the 21 children on the total number of children that were birthed by the couple via surrogacy. So Chinese nationals were birthing babies at quite an extent using surrogacy. And apparently, an arrest warrant has also been issued for their nanny who was abusing the children, but they were sending the children back to China. When they raided the $4.1 million home in Arcadia, it was listed as a surrogacy center. And it was also the place where the couple lived. So they would lure women to have surrogate births, and they would get paid lots of money. Many of the children were birthed through surrogacy, and then the male and female at their residence took legal guardianship of those kids. It's hard to determine the donor eggs or sperm. One of the mothers hired the couple. It's horrific. It's disturbing. It's damaging emotionally. She said the couple had told her they only had one child. Yeah, supposedly, and then they're sending the kids back to China. What is going on there? Probably to be trained as super spies because they're half American. There's more to that story for sure. Head should roll. Experts urge action on Microsoft China Pentagon link. A new report claims that Microsoft has used Chinese engineers to maintain U.S. Defense Department computers, which would represent a major national security threat. Experts want Microsoft's borderline treasonous behavior investigated. ProPublica published an investigation on July 15th that claimed that Microsoft is using engineers in China to help maintain Defense Department computer systems with minimal supervision by U.S. personnel. They admit, while they don't know if the report is true, Microsoft does have operations and connections in China, and that the Biden administration did allow far too many loopholes for potential foreign infiltration, without a doubt. All companies in China are required to share data with the Chinese Communist Party, particularly the Chinese military, through civil military fusion. Hence, Microsoft's reported use of Chinese engineers could give the CCP access to sensitive U.S. DoD data. And we know this. Time and time again, we've been completely infiltrated. Not just Joe Biden allowing a spy balloon to fly over the country, but in every aspect. I told you, in academia, in civilian life, in corporate and industry, and in government. Wired, as the headline, DHS faces new pressure over DNA taken from immigrant children, illegal immigrant children. The U.S. government has added the DNA of approximately 133 migrant children and teens to a criminal database, which critics say could mean police treat them like suspects indefinitely. I think that's a bunch of bullshit. The reason you take DNA from illegal immigrants or from criminals, which I never agreed with in the first place, and Anthony Scalia had the dissenting opinion when the Supreme Court, when it wasn't majority conservative, when Supreme Court voted that it was okay for law enforcement to take DNA. And I believe the DNA was taken from most of us during the COVID testing. And that's part of the New World Order, and what they're trying to do is get DNA from everybody. So because you're getting illegal immigrant children, you're taking it from them, and mostly you do it so you can determine whether the parents are the actual biological parents or not. That's not to treat the children like criminal suspects. Bullshit. BBC, babies are made using 3 people's DNA and born free of hereditary disease. That's always the case. Been legal for a decade in Britain. Now 8 babies have been born each with 3 people's DNA. I don't believe in this at all. I think it's an abomination. They always play it, the technology is progressing specifically for health reasons. And that's not always the case, because we know what was going on with Epstein and other research with the other companies that I mentioned yesterday, like Orchid, is they're saying they're screening for disease, but they also screen for things like intelligence, and it's back to the Ubermensch, the Superman of Nietzsche's fame, that it's eugenics. So they say, it's for the health, but that's the way eugenics started too. So it's for the health. They're trying to make us superhuman. Just the News is reporting dangers of AI and criminal activity examined by House Judiciary Subcommittee. As artificial intelligence transforms every corner of society, the House Judiciary Subcommittee on Crime and Federal Government Surveillance explored a darker side during a hearing on Wednesday. They discussed the growing threat of AI-enabled crime, ranging from fraud and identity theft to exploitation of children. They also assessed whether U.S. law enforcement and policies are equipped to keep up with the wave of digital criminality. No, they're not. Goes on to talk about AI threats are even more dangerous because of their ability to mimic real people. Doppelganger, using a blend of voice, image, and video technologies. Scary stuff. And it's coming on fast, like a freight train coming right at you. The Wall Street Journal, drones, AI, and robot pickers meet the fully automated, meet the fully autonomous farm. New technologies are paving the way for farms that can run themselves with minimal human input. It's happening. It's happening. AI is displacing humans. And once we have the fully autonomous AI robot, humanoid robot that could do anything a human can do physically, then we're in trouble. Forbes, Waymo vets are automated construction sites with self-driving dirt diggers. Bedrock Robotics, led by a veteran of Alphabet's Inc.'s autonomous tech unit, is emerging from stealth with $80 million and plans to make heavy construction equipment work around the clock without human operators. Well, we saw this in iRobot, didn't we? Where Will Smith, his character, was in the house, and the demolition robot came alive and started demolishing the house when he was in it. Displacing all jobs. All jobs. Writing code, writing, artistry, acting, clerical work, lawyers, bartenders, obviously administrators, chefs, construction workers. I'm telling you. Did we get it? I think we got in under an hour. 58 minutes. Thanks for joining me today. Don't forget to engage the channel, like, subscribe, leave a comment, share the podcast. Give me a thumbs up, please. I appreciate you. Remember, you're under attack. psychologically and biologically. So stay hip to the trick. And you are being, your endeavor in life, whether you're getting paid or not, is being undermined by artificial intelligence. And that's the true threat to humanity right now. I mean, we have nuclear war also. But this other stuff, Epstein really isn't a threat to you, or his files aren't really a threat to you. But the victimization of human beings, especially children, in a sexual nature, I mean, that's always a threat to your children. That's an issue that's got to be addressed, obviously. And then the corruption and everything. But the New World Order is still coming at us like a freight train. Despite Trump being elected and trying to change things, we're not going to stop the technology train as much as we try. I mean, there's been some protest, not enough really. So we need to speak up about that. Maybe create a new Luddite movement of sorts. Who knows? They talk about, oh, we need to get rid of fossil fuels. We need energy to produce AI and to run AI and to run all our electronics. So it's not like we're getting rid of the consumption. Back in the 70s, we were talking about the environment. We're like, stop consuming. And that was, I think, was very helpful. But there's nobody out there that's saying stop consuming, and then we wouldn't need to create all this energy. But the robots need energy, and so. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget to check out episode 121 of Tuesdays with Perry. We had a Wednesday edition go up last night, so check that out, where we discussed a handful of topics. All right, don't forget to check me out every day, Monday through Friday, live stream, 10 a.m. on Rumble. Respect.
You can't handle the truth.
Google me, bitch! Google me!